Today on Bridges, we're going to talk about surviving child abuse and empowering others. Welcome to Bridges. I'm Monica Schmelter, and I'm so glad that you could join us today. My guest today is Keith Edmonds, and he has a story that all of us really need to hear. He endured child abuse and just some things, and he was able to come to a place of forgiveness. So Keith, I want to welcome you to Bridges today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share my story.
Well, we're glad to have you here. So let's start with Keith. You know, I talked about the child abuse. What happened to you as a child?
On November 18th, 1978, my mother was single. I was born on September 9th, 1977, so I was 14 months old. She was dating a guy, and he's like what I like to call a real-life monster. He held my face to an electric heater.
He held your face to an electric heater.
Correct, in their apartment in the middle of the night, and resulting in the third-degree burns to over 50% of my face, the scars that we see today. Doctors didn't know if I was going to live or die for 2 weeks because of the abuse that I sustained. And God pulled me through at that point, and then I started my transition of going from that victim to a survivor.
Yeah, and that has to be, you know, for all of us, that's a tough transition. I mean, most of us have been through something in life. You really, when you said a real-life monster, it is a real-life monster who would hold anybody's face to a heater but a baby.
Oh, yeah, 14-month-old defenseless baby.
Yeah, a baby. Tell me about that transition, because of coming to a survivor, because you bear the physical marks, the scars that happened, and I'm sure it couldn't have been easy growing up.
Well, you know, oftentimes I talk about being blessed, and I talk about being blessed that I get to carry my scars on the outside and the inside, because there's so many people that are abused. You know, the statistics are staggering, that are carrying around their scars on the inside, and I get to carry mine on the outside and the inside. So getting to a point of realizing that I was different, because I had to grow up realizing that I was different, right? When I started getting cognitive in preschool, in first grade, second grade, into school, having people say, you look different, you know, what happened to your face, things along those lines. So it was really challenging for me, because I dealt with a lot of anger. Like, you know, I didn't do anything. What, you know, why me? And a lot of times I would act out because I would be angry. But there just came a point in time early in life where I was like, hey, this is who I am. This is what it is. So I think when I first started my transition, it's not an overnight transition. It's not like you just flip a switch and you're good. Yeah,
I'm so glad that you're saying that, because a lot of times people think, you know, someone comes on the show or whatever, and, you know, I was able to forgive everybody, and I just, and it doesn't happen like that usually.
No.
It's a process.
You would want it to. But it does not. But, you know, every year until I was 18, I had to go to the Shriners Burn Institute in Cincinnati, Ohio, and they would do skin grafts. They would do plastic masks to stretch out the scar, take hundreds of photos, talk about surgeries. I've had my nostrils enlarged, skin grafts, different things. Finally, when I started to get to teenage years, that's when they were waiting for my face to mature so they could really start doing the reconstruction. And I said, I don't want anything to do with that. I am who I am. I am Keith, and this is the life that I chose to move forward with. And it was challenging because, you know, I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s is when I was in my teenage years. And, you know, Freddy Krueger was a big movie, so I was bullied. I was called Freddy Krueger oftentimes, Scarface, Burnt Toast Baby. I mean, the list goes on and on of things that I was called.
How did you respond to that, Keith?
Anger. Anger.
I can understand that. When you were in those years, were you acting out then too, out of the anger that you felt? Did you get in trouble? Or?
Yeah. I mean, by no means was I a good child. I definitely pushed the limits on different things and tried to get away with what I could, and I would fight. You know, if a kid said something about me, I would try to fight him, and that was great until I was about 14 or 15. And then everybody grew and I stayed the same size. So then they were bigger than me. So then I just kind of had to ingest it. And when I started like ingesting it in myself, I started getting into the drugs and alcohol because I didn't have to feel what I was feeling with that anger. And that led me down that path. But
so at 14 and 15, that's when you started with drugs and alcohol.
Right, that's when I started
Did
trying
your
to
mom
escape.
know? Did your mom know?
No, I hid it pretty well.
You hid it pretty well.
I mean, there are certain, mishaps that I had that were pretty
Right.
obvious. But my mom she's very strong. I mean, she will tell you, like, I was more afraid of her than I was of the cows, type deal. Because
So she wasn't afraid to discipline you
Right,
or
yeah,
correct you,
yeah.
and she loved you.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So when I talk about that transition in dealing with the anger and all these things, I started coping with drugs and alcohol, and I'm big on statistics. They say 2 out of 3 people in substance abuse programs admit some kind of abuse as a child. Well, that is absolutely correct, and I fell right into that same statistic. And it took me down a dark path. My 20s were rough. DUIs, car crashes, hurting people.
My goodness.
It was a dark time. And it wasn't until my 35th birthday where I had that moment where I needed help. And I didn't know where the help was coming from. It wasn't that I didn't believe in God. I didn't have a relationship. And I finally, one day, it was actually my 35th birthday. It was September 9th, 2012. And I said, God, if you're there, I need some help. And from that day forward, my life started changing. And part of that was me having to share my story. Oftentimes I say it was a trade, right? I came to Christ, but Christ said, you have to share your story, which was something I didn't want to do because I would never tell people what happened to me. Like normally before 2012, you would want to know what happened to me. I would want to tell you, but we would never cross that bridge.
So when people ask you what happened to you,
Very few
they
would ever
didn't
ask that.
after you were an adult or even when you were a kid?
Even when I was a kid, very
They
few.
didn't ask you what happened?
No, but I've heard all kinds of stories. I've heard that I flew out of a windshield, I've been in a burning house. I've heard all kinds of stories except for child abuse. Or except when you were 14 months old, your face was held to electric heater type stuff.
So people made these rumors up? Is that what was happening?
Yeah, they would
just
assume, right?
made up stories that, you
Yeah.
hit a
Oh, well,
windshield or
whatever,
this
yeah.
happened. Okay.
Absolutely.
So you didn't share with people the real truth and they really didn't ask you
Absolutely
either.
not. No, and that's what was so challenging when I came to Christ was like, okay, now you have to share. And I was like, wait a minute, like I've lived my whole life not sharing. And getting to a point now where sharing is comfortable, and this is what I'm called to do.
Right.
It makes sense now.
When you came to Christ, okay, was it by someone talking to you? How did you know to come to Christ? Was you just always knew that?
I knew there was a God.
You knew there was a God.
Right.
You just weren't interested for whatever reason.
When I was in high school, I was a wrestler in high school, and I had a very strong Christian wrestling coach. Amazing man. I still talk to him to this day. And he would always tell me that was the answer, and I didn't want to hear it because I had some anger, right?
Yeah.
It's like everybody
so
else.
much had been done to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like how can, me and God had some things to work out for lack of a better term, right? And then, I went down this path, and like I talked about DUIs and car crashes and indirectly hurting people, like not intentionally, just by my actions and my words. And finally, I just got to a point where I was so broken. A lot of people call it rock bottom.
Yeah.
You hear that in recovery a lot. Like, I hit my rock bottom was this. And my rock bottom was my 35th birthday. And I just said, God, I have no idea if you're there, but if you're there, I need some help. I took a look at my life where it was going, and where I wanted to be, and none of those things were in line.
Wow.
I mean, it was
And
like
you
a
were
triangle
30.
almost.
Yeah.
I was 35.
You were 35. Now,
Yeah.
at 35, Keith, when you had this rock bottom moment,
Yes.
were you still drinking and
I was
taking
actually
drugs?
drinking while I had that moment.
I've
I
heard
was
a lot of people
I was sitting
say
in
that.
my car drinking 22-ounce Coors Lights.
So while you were in the middle of drinking,
Yes. I
you
was
have
listening to
that
music.
moment.
Yes. Dumped it
God,
out.
if you're there, you dumped it out.
And I walked back into my apartment, and I sat there for the rest of the day, and the next day I went to my first AA meeting.
Your first AA meeting. What
Not
was that like
court-ordered
for you?
AA meeting.
Yes. What was that like for you?
It was pretty surreal because when I sat in there, I heard other people share, and I said, these are my people. This is where I belong.
So you felt at home.
I did. I did. And it was one of those things where I was like, I'll be danged. Like, I belong here, and these are my people, and I belong on this road to recovery. Now, I didn't know it was going to work. I mean, I remember calling my friends and being like, hey, I think I quit drinking. And they're like, what? Because it's so out of character for me to make that transition. I mean, I was a drinker. I enjoyed drinking.
Like, were you a big drinker?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I did. But I couldn't maintain life. It was impossible.
Yeah, but you couldn't function like whatever a normal adult life is.
Yes.
You weren't able to do that.
No.
So you go to AA. You realize, man, these are my people. Like I get these people, and they get me.
Yes.
Were you able to share with them what had happened? Why you had the scars on your face?
Yes. As I started working in recovery, and then from AA, I got involved in Sober Recovery, which is Christ-centered 12-step recovery program, and. As I started working through the steps and getting real with myself, right? Now I'm talking in recovery terms, but getting real with myself and starting to understand what was kind of driving me to where I was. I share my testimony, and in my testimony is where you share with large group. And you know, I oftenly say, a lot of times, like if I speak at a children's conference or whatever, the first things I say are, my name's Keith Edmonds. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm a survivor of child abuse.
Amen.
And that kind of lets my guard down. It gives me the opportunity to say who I am and where I'm going to go. So, yeah, I was able to share and say, hey, this is what happened. And it's been great to be able to share, because there's nobody that I have to wake up every morning to be other than myself. Yeah. And to be myself is the best thing.
Yeah. It's like you've got it all out in the open.
Correct.
When you say your name and that you've been a victim of child abuse in the past, and that you're an alcoholic, like, people just know who you are.
Yeah, transparency.
And it's just out there. And I would imagine that that's helped a great deal in your road to recovery.
Absolutely has.
Because the Bible says the truth sets us free.
Truth will
so
set you
just by putting it that way. At the same time, like now you've accepted Christ, you're sharing your story. Is there still anger in your heart about what happened to you and how your mom's former boyfriend held your face to a heater?
There is no anger.
No anger. Did that go away in an instant?
No.
No.
Let me stop you there. No, that's a long ways away from an instance. What that is November 18th, 1978, until one day in 2012 when I came to Christ.
Wow.
So that's a long path to get there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And to forgive somebody. All the cliches are true. It sets you free. I mean, all that good stuff.
It does, you know, it sets us free, and the end result is what we all want. But that process to get there,
very challenging.
It is. You know, we got to trust God. We got to give up ourselves. We've got to deny our right to have anything. It's a lot.
Yeah.
We've got to take a break. We want you to stay with us, though. When we come back, I'm going to talk to Keith Edmonds some more, and I want to give you all a look and a glimpse into the work that he does now to help empower others. We'll be right back.
You can purchase a copy of today's show for $15. Call us at 615-754-0039 or send a check to the address on the screen. Please mention the program number on the screen.
The blood of Christ is the only cure. It gets down to the root of every single thing that ails us. There's not an addiction, there's not a generational curse, there's not any root of sin, there's nothing that the blood of Jesus cannot cleanse.
Visit MonicaSchmelter.com to schedule Monica to speak at your event.
When I truly turned my heart to the Lord, He took every sin I ever did away from me.
God really is your other half. God, He's the only person who can really, fill those holes and cracks in your heart that you're so wanting someone to fill.
It's no good to have a big dream if you're not putting yourself in motion to go after that.
If you're just joining us today on Bridges, I'm talking with Keith Edmonds, and he shared his story about the horrific abuse that he suffered as a child and shared about through his teen years and then coming to Christ at 35. And so now we're going to talk about the work that Keith Edmonds does. And so Keith, it's been so good to be talking to you and just to hear your journey.
It's been a long one.
It
has been a long journey to get to where we're at today.
You know, God is doing so many good things through your honesty and your being able to share. Tell me about the work that you do now.
Well, I started sharing my story in 2013. I was invited to go to the Mid-Atlantic Conference on Child Abuse and Neglect, and that was in Annapolis, Maryland. And I was to be their keynote speaker, and it was an hour and 20 minutes of me speaking. Now,
did that scare you?
Yeah, because at this point I had never shared my story before, like we had discussed earlier.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of just wasn't something that I did. And there I was on an airplane going to Maryland to specifically speak out about child abuse and what happened to me. And getting out there and sharing my story, and that's how this started, was opportunities like that. You know, I got KeithEdmonds.com, and I put myself out there, and I was vulnerable. I mean, I was just, hey, this is what happened to me. And then I would get invited to speak at different places, but they're few far in between. And I knew that God was calling me to do this, but I had no idea how to make it work. Like how am I supposed to be able to work a normal job and then take a week off to go to South Dakota to speak at their conference?
Right.
You know, it was challenging, and it was full of ups and downs. So my wife and I, we created a cleaning company, and we were cleaning, and we were doing everything we can. I was driving for Uber. I mean, it was the grind of trying to figure out how we can balance this, because we knew it was God's calling to do. And as I got more involved in the speaking side of things, I was talking with my wife, and I, as much as I want to be known for my words in helping people come to Christ, in trying to get them to understand what forgiveness can do for them, I wanted to be known for my actions, for my work. It wasn't, hey, I just want to be a speaker and an author anymore. What it was is I wanted to be involved in children's lives, and I wanted to connect with them one-on-one. So we created the Keith Edmonds Foundation, and the mission is to empower 1 million child abuse victims.
Amen.
And it's sad to say that that's our mission, because that's 1 million child abuse victims. You know, that's a very large number, and really that's a small fraction of the number of us that are walking around that are victims of child abuse, even to our adults.
Yeah. So tell me about how you work with children and how you empower them in that transition, because I can only imagine, but to be able to forgive abuse, to be able to survive abuse, you know, that goal is, it's what we want, and yet the path to get there is a hard one. So tell me some of the things that you say and what you share to help people make that transition from being, you know, a victim to being
mentality.
a survivor. Yeah.
Well, we had Camp Confidence this past summer. Camp Confidence, we had children ages 8 to 12. And the reason why we're going with the children ages 8 to 12 with our camp is because statistics show that age 8.4 to 13.1 is the first time that a child will get involved in drugs and alcohol.
That young?
8.4 to 13.1 age. It's the first time a child will try drugs or alcohol. Now, in the previous segment, we talked about 2 out of 3 people in substance abuse programs admit some kind of abuse as a child.
Yeah.
So basically, we're giving them a recipe, right? So Camp Confidence was created to take these kids ages 8 to 12 and bring them into our community and spend time with them and transition them. So Camp Confidence was an opportunity for these children to just let their guards down and truthfully be a kid. Because when it boils down to it, a kid deserves to be a kid and should be a kid.
Right.
So we had these children at our camp, and we had the opportunity to watch them let their guards down and watch them bloom, watch them go from the darkness to the light. The first day, they were kind of closed up and really didn't know what to think. By the final day, they're bubbly and excited and looked forward to seeing us. And at the end of camp, and we had numerous activities, but at the end of camp, we actually gave each kid a pair of shoes. And I told them a story before I said goodbye to them. I told them a story about how when I was a kid, if I ever got a new pair of shoes, that I felt so much more confident and so much better about myself. And I believe that even you, when you get a new pair of shoes, you feel better about yourself today.
Oh, yes, I do.
Just like I do.
Absolutely.
Just like I do today.
There's just something about getting something new that just makes you feel like,
And a new pair of shoes will make you feel better about yourself instantly. So we're able to give these children a brand new pair of shoes. And I told them the story about how much confidence that gives me and what that allows me to do. And then the most exciting part happened at Camp Confidence, and that's when I was able to say, hey, this is the end of camp today, but we're not going to say see you next year. Here at Camp Confidence and with the Keith Edmonds Foundation, we say see you next month. We have the next 12 months lined out of activities where we'll see these kids month after month after month, where we'll continue that mentorship. Because what we're entering them into is a community of love, positivity, and mentorship.
Amen.
And that's exactly what these children need. They need somebody to put their arms around them, love them, and show them the way.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking for, because they're so vulnerable. They can get into all kinds of things. But when an empowered survivor connects one-on-one with the victim of child abuse, there is a dynamic and amazing connection that happens that if I could bottle it, I would. But it works.
Yeah.
And they look to you and they know that you've been through some stuff. Like there's kids that were walking around Camp Confidence, they say, I've heard about your story. And I said, yes, but look what forgiveness has allowed me to do.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna have camp. And even one of the children said, how long are we gonna have Camp Confidence? I said, I'll be long gone and Camp Confidence will still be going on. And he said, I can't wait because I wanna come back and I wanna volunteer when I get older.
Isn't that wonderful?
And that's the circle that we talk about,
Yeah.
where now he becomes an empowered survivor down the road and he connects with the children that are coming through. Because I don't have the magic wand. I can't stop child abuse. I wish that I had the magic wand. But what I can be, and the foundation can be, is involved in the transition from victim to survivor. And ultimately, one day, they become an adult thriver.
Yeah. And I love that you do the Camp Confidence and then you have monthly
Confident
things,
community, yeah.
because so many times, you know, something like Camp Confidence would just be a wonderful event. And it is life-changing, but yet that child has nothing, you know, it's a long time till next year.
12 months is a long time.
It's a long
It's a
time.
long time in recovery too, right?
Yes, 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 it's a long time so that they get to come back. What do you call the monthly meetings?
Confident community is what we
Confident
call
community.
it.
So you
Where now
give them
they're
a
in
safe
community.
place.
Absolutely.
And it's
Absolutely.
kids 8 to 12.
Yeah.
Do you talk with them, Keith, about how to forgive? Because I know some of those children, they may be going back into,
Right.
you know, challenging situations.
Sure.
Because there are children I know that have to be emotionally abused, sometimes even physically
Sure.
abused, and nobody knows it.
Sure.
But them and whoever
They've been through
is
it.
that abusive.
They've already
Yeah.
been through it.
Yeah.
We do spend time, but again, these are kids ages 8 to 12.
Right,
so
they're just children.
I can't quite have the conversation
Yeah.
like I'm having with you right now. But we do talk about different things. We talk about, we have a code with the foundation that the kids know, and it talks about courage, optimism, determination, and excellence. And we talk to them about what all those things mean. And we talk to them about being good, whether they're at their foster parents' house or they've been reunified with their parents, or no matter where they're at, we talk about them having the opportunity to come see us, to come be a part of us. We want to be a part of you guys. We go to youth football games to see our kids play in football. We buy school clothes. The foundation went with a family of 2 to Kohl's, and we were able to buy them school clothes.
What a fun thing.
Yeah,
you know, because getting school clothes, again,
goes back to the confidence.
I remember being so happy to get clothes to go back to school. It was like such a, it was just a wonderful thing.
And a lot of times where these children are at, there's not that opportunity.
Exactly.
You know, and luckily we have our referral system set up where, you know, it's either DCS or Child Protective Services or even the schools that'll reach out and say, hey, we need some help with this. Like I received an email today about a child in an elementary school that needs a new pair of shoes. She's walking around with broken down, beat up shoes. And we got her shoes. Another 17-year-old needed a backpack. So we got her a backpack of love, which is a program that we have at the foundation as well. But it's putting our arms around them, and it's all possible because I found that forgiveness and I came to Christ. And when I came to Christ, that's where my forgiveness came from.
Yeah.
And now look at what we're able to do because of that moment that I had, and God was there.
Amen. And that, you know, one of the things, there's so many things about your story that are just so incredible. One of the things I love about God so much is just, he's just so good.
Yeah.
And he's just so faithful. And he loves us so much that he would give you that unction to cry out to him while you're drinking beer.
Yeah.
He's just good.
Yeah.
And he wants to reach us.
In all things,
Yes,
he's good.
in all things.
And now that I can look back on my life and I can look back at the challenging times and the difficult moments and the moments where I felt like I cried out, but I didn't cry out from the right spot.
Yeah.
And feeling like, you know, just moments of despair, like
Yeah.
almost moments of suicidal thoughts. Like, what am I going to do? Like, my life is a mess. And then having him come in and allow us to build what we're building with the foundation and change the lives of the children that we're able to connect to, it's truly, truly amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And I think as you look back, you know, where you are right now in your life, and you look back as a child and a teen, and even up to that 35 moment, did you ever imagine that God would be able to do what he's doing right now through your
Absolutely
life?
not. Absolutely not. Nor did I. Like, I often say, this was not the plan. This was a long ways away from where my plan was. And now I'm thankful that I'm here. And maybe if I had known that this was the plan, I would have jumped earlier. I don't know.
No.
But I know that sharing my story and telling people that I'm a survivor of child abuse was never anything that...
Never anything you thought about. It was not on your radar.
No way.
You mentioned that you have a wife. How long have you been married?
Tomorrow is actually my 2nd year anniversary.
Oh my goodness, so you're a newlywed.
Yeah.
Well, happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you.
And does she help with the foundation?
Yeah, she does. When we came together, actually, the funny story about recovery is she's from back home, and she had a cafe, and I just saw it on Facebook, and I thought, well, that's cool. So I went home, and when I went back home, I started talking to her, and we just connected. And that day that I walked into her cafe, I was 30 days sober. And I said, hey, I really can't do anything, just kind of hang out. I don't go to bars anymore. I'm trying to be sober here. And ever since we've been together, it's been building up to where we're at today.
Wow.
You know? So a lot of times she had this steady job while I was trying to piece together different money by doing odd jobs to get to where we're at even today. So yeah, she's huge. You know, it's our ministry. It truthfully is.
Yeah, and God brought you together. And
I can see that now.
yeah, now you've got this foundation, and
Right.
you're just helping so many children. I want to thank you so much for coming today and for sharing your story and for sharing about your foundation.
Yeah.
And I pray God really grows it and blesses it even more than what it is right now.
Amen. Well, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to share.
Been good to have you. We're going to put all the information about Keith Edmonds and his foundation up on our website. We are so glad that you could join us. We say goodbye and God bless you.
For more information on a guest, visit our website, ctntv.org. Prayer changes things. If you need prayer, write to the address on the screen. Call 615-754-0039 or email prayer@ctntv.org.
Join the Bridges community on Facebook. Visit Facebook and search for Bridges with Monica. We would love to connect with you.
Log on to www.ctntv.org, where you can make a prayer request, view our program guide, see who's on Bridges, or even watch one of Monica's latest teachings. Log on to www.ctntv.org